So the game engine is the sandbox in which this simulation occurs. And that is the core technology that every game uses to create itself.
I keep on reading youth spends a lot of time playing PUBG, Free Fire. Places in Uttar Pradesh especially where a lot of young people are playing these games. What is the career that you can make out of just playing?
उसमें देखोगे तो YouTube के अंदर really it's about people whose personality you like but also the fact that आप एक गेम फॉलो करते हो उनके साथ. अगर वो BGMI खेल रहे हैं उनका एक कमेंट्री रहता है. जैसे आप व्लॉगर होते थे जिनकी आप पसंद करते हो उनकी लाइफ देखना, लेकिन उनकी लाइफ के अंदर इतना खासियत नहीं होगा जितना उनके कमेंट्री में होगा.
Hi everyone, welcome to another exciting episode of Eureka, the podcast that talks about the ins and outs of the content business. We have had a great list of guests who spoke about marketing, who spoke about content syndication, writing. Today, we have a slightly different topic. We are going to talk about gaming and the vast world of opportunities that lie in front of us. Today, we are delighted to have Mr. Sameer Pitalwala. Hi Sameer, welcome to the show. How are you doing today?
Very well. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for agreeing to do this in a very short notice. You're one of our guests who will talk very differently about the content business. All of the discussions that we have had in the show was all about series and films. Today we have you. We want to talk all about gaming. Why don't we start off with your intro, Sameer, for all of us?
Well, the quick background is I started my career as a computer game reviewer and a journalist reviewing games as well as music for newspapers. After that, I had a long love affair with video, online video specifically, starting with YouTube in about probably 2005-06, and spent time during that time working with Times Group, launching a lot of YouTube channels. Some of them ended up being very successful. And that kind of got me understanding about the underpinnings of what it meant to distribute content on the internet. Follow that up with, move to UTV, and then I think began working on the production side of it because distribution, I had an early head start with the way the platform was kind of growing and understood the nuances of it. And then during production, I began producing original video content for YouTube inside of UTV. And that kind of led to sort of figuring out that, okay, this is distribution, this is production, this is how you monetize outside of, generally I knew what it meant to monetize on YouTube and on apps and others, but what it meant to monetize with branded content. And that was a time when overall original content on YouTube was taking off. So when UTV sold to Disney, everybody was kind of figuring out what to do next. And I found that this was really interesting and I wanted to do this full time. Met my co-founder at a bar in California. We both quit. He was at YouTube at that time. We quit, he quit YouTube, I quit Disney, and we started Culture Machine living room table. Funded ourselves for 6 months, then raised venture funding. Did that journey for about 7 odd years. The company exited to another firm. And after it sold, I waited for a year and a half, finished my earn out, figured out what to do next. I basically on a limb again began experimenting with game engines because I could see how they were being used in production. This is about 2017. And then somehow ended up speaking with Tim Sweeney at Epic Games in person at an event. And this was before the pre-metaverse hype. And then conversations led to one thing, led to another. And the pandemic was going on. I continued to be curious, learned Unreal in my spare time. And I didn't know what to do next, to be frank. But I knew that this was it was coming full circle for me because from games I went to video, and then through video I could see how game technology was being used again in used again in video, and that's when that whole circle I just said, I couldn't shake off the interest, and it led to me joining Epic as the territory head. So I looked after Southeast Asia and South Asia. I looked after the Unreal Engine suite, which is what it became as Epic continued to acquire more companies and integrate that technology in. I also worked a bit on Fortnite and Rocket League for locally for India because they didn't really have a team at that point of time. And now I am at Google. I head gaming for Google Cloud in APAC. And at Google, really what I do is we look at a lot of the core technologies that Google's built, which helps support all these large applications around the world, and how gaming companies use that to kind of run their applications and products. So it's pretty interesting. I think there's a lot happening in that space right now, both with games, but also with what generative AI is capable of doing within games. And generally, I think the whole structure of content has also become a lot more transmedia.
Yeah.
So it's nice to come from that world and then see. I kind of come from a little bit of both worlds, but now I can see both of those worlds converge.
Before we dive deep into the tech side of things, you have seen video firsthand. You have seen video production firsthand. Then you went into gaming, and now it is all combined. I have to delve into all of these points one by one. पहला question जो मेरा है समीर is when you started experimenting with Unreal, correct, in your spare time. I want you to explain a little bit more what Unreal is for people who don't know, but people who really play games, people who are interested in games. What is the Unreal Engine? What is all about that excited you to tinker around with that?
So the game engine is the sandbox in which this simulation occurs. And that is the core technology that every game uses to create itself. I mean, game developers use a game engine to create it. The popular game engines tend to be Unity.
Yeah.
It's also Unreal. They tend to be a lot of other, like Sony has their own engine platform. So there are many of these engines through history. Godot is there as well as a very important one now in the open source space. And some of these all occupy different spaces. So Unity is very good with mobile. Unreal is very good with, say, high quality in terms of rendering. Some of these, there are questions about whether these will persist or with AI, some of these may be replaced. So, but broadly, the idea in terms of a description technologically is that it is the software that creates the set of instructions that causes the simulations to occur and passes those instructions to your device, which allows those devices to paint, dream up, draw these structures, which you call games. Now, the second part of your question was, why did it interest me? Is because I think for me early on when I got into gaming because a friend of mine in college would take me to cyber cafes and that was during that time. But early on, I've been fascinated with, like, I think if you look at if you dig deeper, really, in school, where I went to SSC school in public school here in Santa Cruz, and the computer room was the only one with AC. So it smelled a certain way. And right next to the computer room was the library. So those are my two loves of life, books and computers. So I actually learned, and when we were there, I had a deep fascination with computers from an early age. But I also learned about computers through games. And that when I was in college, I rediscovered that passion when my friend kind of got me back introduced with games, and I'm like, oh, yeah, I should play Prince, I should play Wolf, I have to find, if I have to figure out sort of root structures of directories, you figure that out because somebody in the computer division has hidden where Prince should be so that you don't end up playing that and you learn regular command prompts. So my understanding of computers came through games, and when I began playing games during the early eras of 2000, 2001, actually all my early friends were actually on internet forums because these were people who had similar passions, interests. That's one of the reasons why in Culture Machine we early on set up in Chennai, because a lot of my friends were South Indian. So I actually learned so much about, media, entertainment, comics, graphic novels, all due to this sort of this water cooler that was there on the internet, these internet forums which were there around gaming with Indians. These were all Indian folks who were there, early adopters who were at the edge of culture. So for me, the lens of gaming not only helped me understand my passions in life, which eventually became at the crossroads of business, technology, and content. Business was something I had to learn in order to be, continue to pursue these passions. But the real sort of crossroads of tech and content were due to sort of games, and I think when it was, what fascinated me was just, the fact that I could see fidelity had improved so much in those 10, 12 years that I had this affair with video, which was, very fruitful for me. But at the same point of time, this was me coming back to what I always loved. I loved these 3D worlds. I loved the fact that it kind of spoke to me in a more natural way in terms of immersive storytelling and just, these were actually social networks, right? And the 3D social networks. So for me, it was like, harking back to growing up. So it was part of that.
I just wanted to share this special memory that I have when it comes to Unreal. When we went to our engineering college, 2000 actually was the first time in Kharagpur we had LAN across different hostels, right? So in the LAN, there were two games which we all hosted, Unreal Tournament and Quake 3.
Yeah.
Right? And then we used to have all of these tournaments between dorms, between corridor, between wings, between different hostels. Unreal Tournament has been in my life since that era, right? And if you remember, the way they used to simulate headshot and frag counts and all of that. From there, and tell me, you might be knowing better than me, from that, Unreal Tournament was the first game where this engine was developed.
No,
right?
Unreal itself.
Unreal itself. Correct.
Unreal was the game, and then came Unreal Tournament.
Unreal Tournament, correct.
Yeah, and IoT at that time competed with, you're right, Quake 3 Arena. There was Unreal Tournament had the map facing world.
Correct.
And then Quake 3 had its famous DM17.
Yeah.
But yeah, those were the days. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's all where it started now into all of this rendering out matrix and everything through the engine. Good. So I'll take that from Unreal, from building those things. Now you're into Google. So now help us understand what is cloud gaming in the simplest of way possible.
Yeah.
And what does Google do in the services?
Yeah, I think people confuse cloud gaming with, the fact that there are two parts, right? One is the ability to not have to download a game and stream a game.
Correct.
Like Netflix. So that's what people tend to assume cloud gaming is. And Google had a product called Stadia.
Correct.
Microsoft has a product called Xbox. I think it's called Game Cloud. NVIDIA has one. So that's sort of like, instead of buying a high quality machine, just like you rent your email service provider, you rent the cloud service provider to stream your games. And then the other part is, game companies that use cloud who basically run their games. So let's divide that out now. What does that mean? Back in the day, you would buy a game and then you'd own it forever. And in that game,
I buy now as well.
You do, yeah. But now the models change in the sense that instead of just, you'll buy a single player game, right? Like, say, for example, you bought a God of War or whatever you have.
Yeah.
Now, you play that single player experience, normally it'll last between 40 to 80 hours, depending on sort of the experience. And that's it. And maybe it has some sort of multiplayer mode.
Yeah.
But the biggest games in terms of ones by revenue are essentially games that are what you call as live services games.
Correct.
So these become like, they're a software service, So if you're playing Call of Duty, it's a live services game. There are new maps constantly being added, new items being added. So that's a change in the business model, which over the last 10, 15 years, especially since the dawn of mobile, has dramatically kind of altered the landscape on how game companies make money. Now, when you're running these large games where you have millions of people coming and playing them regularly, you're obviously going to be able to run it off the hardware sitting at your home.
Correct.
You need, back in the day, if you had to download a game, I could have a small couple of servers anywhere, and you could just download the game, and then my relationship with you is done in terms of technological.
Correct.
Right? Now, you're doing it on your local hardware, but when you're doing this, there's so much I have to do in terms of, as a game, I have to, authenticate that all of you are in the same world at the same point of time. If you are shooting bullets, how do I know what the damage should be, and I have to propagate that damage so that the other player joining from India knows that, okay, the game state should know that, these things are happening in the world at the same point of time, and that you are winning, he's losing, that damage has occurred, that building has collapsed. So these are, what you may call as multiple services that you need.
Yeah.
And hence, when you're running these, just like today, you're running any software product on the cloud, these games all run on the cloud. So they need to buy capacity. So at the core of it, you're buying network, compute, and storage, right? Which is really what you're doing is you're buying these services which are running very large global firms, Amazon, Microsoft, Google, Oracle. These are the companies who build this infrastructure out. So you're renting that infrastructure. So at the base level, it's that. At a more larger level, it's about the fact that what do these things enable for you to do that you couldn't have done before. If you're a blockchain gaming company, then it means that you may need the ability for somebody like Google to validate your nodes. If you are a firm that's, for example, needing the ability to not just design these games, but also understand the users, because if Tammy is coming and he's buying 10 items from me, which is really, if you're running these, how do you make money?
Correct.
You make money through,
skins and weapons,
in-app purchases or advertising.
Yeah.
And in both cases, you need to know your customer. So now suddenly you have a data problem. So then how do you actually use these technologies to actually gather that data? And, companies like Google have a really large pool of that, and they have kind of been built as firms who understand that. So you need to rent that capacity out. Then you need to figure out, okay, now that generative AI has come in and UGC is possible within games, how do I use generative AI to enable UGC within these games so that people don't have to go around creating their own assets? Just like in YouTube, people began to create their own videos.
Yeah.
Games are also becoming that. Now, when that happens, you may not be able to develop all these large language models yourself.
Yeah.
Then you have to find a way to, again, work with somebody like us. So basically, it ends up being really the core infrastructure, but the infrastructure and understanding of the core technologies that all of these other firms are developing are bottled and kept on a shelf for you to borrow and use.
Yeah.
So a lot of my work is looking at, I speak with within Google, I talk to companies like DeepMind, I talk to labs, I talk to Play, ads, and then use that, because in some way, whatever Google builds for itself, it provides to other people through cloud.
Correct.
So if you don't have the innovation that's there, the only way for you to get that innovation technologically is through the enterprise setup.
Correct.
So that's sort of like in a nutshell what I do.
What you spoke right now, Sameer, I'm just breaking it down into 3 parts. One is traditional way of gaming, which is basically
buy a game.
मैं एक गेम मैं PS5 में Xbox में हूँ, मैं 4,500 रुपया खर्चा करता हूँ, मैं कॉल ऑफ ड्यूटी खरीदा या फिर गॉड ऑफ वॉर खरीदा और मैं अपने कंसोल में वो प्ले किया. पार्ट 2 ऑफ इट इज मैं फ्री फॉर ऑल एपेक्स लेजेंड्स है, फोर्टनाइट है या PUBG है या फ्री फायर है, मैं लॉग इन करके अंदर चला गया as my avatar, and then I play and I buy skins, so in-app purchases and all. And so part 2. Part 3, which is the most interesting part, which is advanced, is the generative AI being used in games. So hum pehle, I think for customers it will be easy to understand the 3 points, slightly more broken down. If you can help us, it will be good. So traditional gaming, cloud gaming mein, again, how they are different, little bit more simplistic, and then how do you foresee generative AI being used in the gaming world so as to, UGC content jo hai with generative AI, how does that take games to the next level?
Yeah. So maybe, the first one is pretty simple. You download, you play.
Yeah.
So it's sort of like a film, right? The director has a vision, you play that vision, and then you move on.
Yeah.
The second one is really where the nuance comes in, that, okay, there's multiplayer. Now there's where you're playing with other players.
Correct.
Right? And within that, there tends to be player versus environment, where there might be a boss and 10 people all coming together to defeat that boss. So those are nuances which are there.
Right.
Now, the third era which is on us is where the players also become developers. So that's the nuance, right? Now, when you become a developer, like within Fortnite today or within Roblox, you can play a game, but you can also create your own game inside, which other people can play.
Okay.
Now, when you're doing this, there's obviously a lot of effort that goes in there. And that's where generative AI comes in to help you ease that effort. So instead of you going around creating this microphone, can you, for example, just type in a prompt and you get a 3D version of the microphone? So it becomes easier for you to take that and then put it inside the game, as opposed to actually spending maybe 3 hours authoring it.
So I can become a game developer, have my own vision of game within Roblox or within, say, Fortnite.
Yeah, or within Minecraft or within others who are coming up, which have the ability.
So in terms of now, purely focusing in India, and I keep on reading youth spends a lot of time playing PUBG, Free Fire, and tell me if this is true or not. I have heard stories where places in Uttar Pradesh, especially, where a lot of young people are playing these games. I think UP is the state which heads number 1 in terms of number of online gamers. Correct? Udhar, जब लोग इन ऐप परचेज करते हैं in terms of buying a skin, buying a weapon, before the first round of ban happened on PUBG and Free Fire, I had heard stories where there were huge amount of, like, these companies were earning a lot of money just by selling skins and weapons and all of it. And I think now that all of those have come under separate norms and regulations and all, the experience of customers by playing these games has not, I mean, what I want to get to is that has the experience been still the same in terms of, do you still get those many options and our company still making money by selling all of this?
Yeah, the short answer is yes. There's no difference because the regulations and the norms really have been applied to the real money gaming world. The regular sort of playing for fun world continues, people continue to purchase, etc. around it. In fact, I would think that would probably continue to grow, if not anything else. And experientially, there's no difference. You know, you still end up, if you're buying a skin, you're buying a skin. You're buying a skin to express yourself. You're buying a kind of weapon in order to hopefully maybe get a gain in the game because it's, you know, it's differently powered or balanced. I think the only part I would add to your question is that a lot of what you said about norms and regulations have an impact on the real money gaming world. The real money gaming world tends to be fantasy gaming, tends to be games like Rummy, Poker, Ludo. I mean, Ludo, there is a version which is very popular, like Ludo King is all ad supported. There's nothing to do with the real money, but there are versions of Ludo which also have real money involved. So I think broadly the world is divided, I guess, in a simplistic way, whether you play for money or play for fun. The part which you kind of spoke about, the regulatory parts, have been the play for money part.
Correct.
The play for fun part have also been affected. There is a GST application on that, but it's still not really, you know, at the end of the day, you're going to go watch a movie, right? It's not going to suddenly impact your life dramatically because you're not going to have a competitive product which you're going to be able to consume because that's the film you want. So like, acha, ye film nahi hoga, to it's okay, I'll go eat.
Correct.
I'll go watch something cheaper as a film. So the play for fun category has not been affected.
Okay. And in the last 4-5 years, I mean, what have you seen in terms of वो कौन से ट्रेंड्स है मार्केट में जहाँ पर यू आर सीइंग यूथ आर स्लोली मूविंग टुवर्ड्स व्हेन इट कम्स टू से अ Fortnite or a PUBG or a Free Fire kind of game? There's a lot of noise about esports, about forming your own teams, you know, going and contesting at a global level. What are those trends, that macro trends that you are seeing within the gaming industry?
I mean, I think esports has been a slow but surely large and continues to grow. But if you look at sort of the larger esports players, which also control a majority of the market, they have actually expanded into other categories, whether it is, you know, the broader categories of geek fandom, or whether it is the broader categories of music, you know. So the fact is, you know, gaming will continue to grow. You know, the fact is that Gen Z and Gen Alpha are growing up inside of these 3D worlds. I think the large part has been the fact that people are now getting, at least in India, people are getting the gumption to go ahead and start studios of their own. You know, so prior, if you look at all the top performing games, they are all mostly imports in terms of, you know, BGMI is a Korean game, Garena Free Fire is actually Singapore headquartered. So these are all firms that have actually kind of, you know, found a large audience base in India, but haven't developed stuff here. But now you're beginning to see studios emerge over here and looking to build for India from India.
Can you name some of those, like, who are these people, like, what are these companies that you are aware of? What are the kind of work they're doing?
I mean, there are plenty of these, right? I mean, where was one start? I can talk about some of the ones which I have recently invested in. There is Studio Sira, which is has a card battling game called Kurukshetra.
Okay.
There's a recent one which I think which called Liquid Nitro, which is all Electronic Arts guys who have got out and who are actually putting together a high quality team to not just adapt global games but also to build them here. There is Terra, which is, you know, the founder of Play Shifu, who we're very happy to have backed as well, who's building out a mobile first sort of kids game, which is a Roblox equivalent. So
we're in India only.
Yeah, all of these are India. I mean, I only back firms out of here. So these are just some 3 out of many which are currently doing it. I believe that the last count now is about 500-600 studios. So these are some of the studios which are doing some great work, I think, and really.
And primarily platform is all mobile?
Well, India tends to go very heavy on mobile, but there are a lot of folks who build as indies, as we call them, build for PC first as well. Not console, but PC. But now with console also things are changing, you know, with PlayStation recently announced their India Hero project. Xbox is doing stuff. So people are aspiring to do both for console and PC and and PC together. I think a lot of folks in with console over here tend to be folks who have developed for PC and then console part manufacturers like PlayStation and Xbox. Xbox is pretty much the same, PC and Xbox. So there's not much difference there.
Great insight, Samir. Thank you. I want to move to our next section, Samir. Let's talk about gaming में क्या क्या career options हो सकते हैं. And let's talk not only about India, let's talk about global because as we know, globally gaming में बहुत काम हुआ है. India में it's still at a very nascent stage. So a little bit of commentary on that would helpful.
Gaming के अंदर बहुत जस्ट लाइक अगर आप कहाँ फिल्म्स या किस में काम करते हो, काफ़ी रोल्स होते हैं टेक्नीशियंस के, कैमरा, लाइट्स. गेमिंग में भी इतने ही ऑब्वियसली बहुत सारे वैराइटीज़ है, आपको करना क्या है उसके हिसाब से. बट जनरली अगर आप कोर स्किल्स जो होते हैं वो 3D आर्टिस्ट के होते हैं जो सब चीज़ें बनाते हैं गेम्स के अंदर, जो असेट्स होते हैं वो बनाते हैं. दूसरा होता है गेम डिज़ाइन करना, जो एक्चुअली क्या बनाओगे आप, कौन सा गेम बनाओगे, कैसे बनाओगे, क्या होगे गेम मैकेनिक्स, क्या होगा गेम लूप, उसके गेम सिस्टम्स क्या होंगे, प्रोग्रेशन सिस्टम क्या होगा, मोनेटाइजेशन सिस्टम क्या होगा. तो जब भी आप ये गेम्स डिज़ाइन करते हो वो एक विजन होता है जो आप काफ़ी लोग के साथ कंबाइन करके जिसके स्पेशलिटीज़ होते हैं, गेम की इकोनॉमी कैसे बनाते हैं. सो ये सब जो स्किल्स होते हैं वो एक अलग स्किल्स होते हैं. बट जनरली अगर आप कोर, ये एक होता है ये सब करना जो डिज़ाइन करना है, दूसरा जो एक्चुअली जो बोलते हैं स्लीव्स रोल अप करके एक्चुअली काम करना है जो डेवलपमेंट में आता है. डेवलपमेंट में 3D आर्टिस्ट होते हैं, लाइटिंग आर्टिस्ट होते हैं, टेक्नीशियंस, टेक्निकल आर्टिस्ट होते हैं, फिर देन देयर आर गेम प्ले प्रोग्रामर्स जो प्रोग्रामिंग सीखते हैं. जनरली इसके अंदर जो स्किल सेट्स काम आती है वो कॉम्बिनेशन होती है लेफ्ट और राइट ब्रेन की, जिसमें आपको नॉट ओनली एक आर्टिस्टिक टेक्निकल कैपेबिलिटी होती है आर्टिस्ट्री में, बट एक टेक्निकल कैपेबिलिटी होती है प्रोग्रामिंग में भी. सो जो वो कॉम्बो होता है अगर आप कंबाइन कर सकते हो देन दो स्किल्स बहुत काम आते हैं गेमिंग के अंदर. क्योंकि एक होता है जो अच्छी चीज़ बनाना है, बट वो काफ़ी समटाइम्स अगर जो चीज़ आप बनाते हो वो गधा मजदूरी होती है, तो उसके साथ अगर आपको प्रोग्रामिंग आती है तो आप काफ़ी एफिशिएंट होते हो, जो टाइम कम ले सकते हो और ज़्यादा बड़े वर्ल्ड्स बना सकते हो और फास्ट बना सकते हो, क्योंकि आपको मालूम है कि वो प्रोग्रामिंग के साथ आप कैसे कर सकते हो ये सब.
Thank you, Samir. That's helpful. I want to talk a little bit about content creation in gaming. What is the career that you can make out of just playing?
That world is actually much more wider. अगर आप उसमें देखोगे तो YouTube के अंदर really it's about people whose personality you like, but also the fact that आप एक गेम फॉलो करते हो उनके साथ. अगर वो BGMI खेल रहे हैं, उनका एक कमेंट्री रहता है. जैसे आप व्लॉगर होते थे जिनकी आप पसंद करते हो उनकी लाइफ देखना, लेकिन उनकी लाइफ के अंदर इतना खासियत नहीं होगा जितना उनके कमेंट्री में होगा. तो वैसे ही गेमिंग के अंदर एक न्यूआंस जो बंदा लाता है, बंदी लाती है, दैट इज़ व्हाट पीपल एंड अप फॉलोइंग. तो वो एक फॉर्मेट है. दूसरा ये होता है कि वो गेम रिव्यूअर्स होते हैं जो जिनकी पसंद आपको लगता है वो टेस्ट, जैसे आपको एक फिल्म की क्रिटिक को आप पसंद करते हो, वैसे काफ़ी, ये तो दो फॉर्मेट है, वैसे तो काफ़ी फॉर्मेट्स रहते हैं गेमिंग के अंदर जो ये यूट्यूबर्स करते हैं. तीसरा जो होता है जो वो एथलीट्स होते हैं. अभी ये आप एक अगर पिरामिड समझो कि ऊपर एक ई स्पोर्ट्स का एथलीट है जो जस्ट लाइक एवरी, अगर आप क्रिकेट देखोगे तो आप शायद से कोहली या रोहित शर्मा वो लेवल के एथलीट्स देखोगे. तो वो लेवल के जो एथलीट्स होते हैं वो जब भी खेलते हैं आप उनसे देख के आप सीखते हो, उनके टैक्टिक्स सीखते हो, उनकी कैपेबिलिटी सीखते हो. तो वो एक जो एथलीट्स का यूट्यूबर का लेयर होता है वो अलग है. एक जो होता है जिसमें शायद से इतनी कला ना हो, बट जिसकी कमेंट्री और सब आपको पसंद आती है इसलिए आप उसको देखते हो. तो ऐसे एक वैराइटीज़ है. आई थिंक देखा जाए तो ऊपर एथलीट्स रहते हैं, बीच में आप जो सेमाई प्रो शायद से नॉट वेरी एंड द लास्ट जो रहता है जिसके अंदर दीज आर पीपल हु आर जस्ट व्यूअर्स, जो वो कुछ वो बनाते नहीं है, सिर्फ देखते.
सो फॉर एग्जाम्पल आई follow few creators who are live game streamers. So for example, if he's playing say Last of Us part 1 or part 2, or if he's a pro in say God of War, so even before I start my game I start watching their play. Like there are multiple situations where you will see if you take the protagonist of Last of Us, say for example, and if she is getting into a a fight mode where normally you will not get those weapons or those skill sets to go and kill someone or go and achieve a task. But when you start watching them, you start learning. Are these the athletes that you're talking about? Like in your term,
Last of Us, maybe not, because of the fact that those would be a completionist, somebody who already played that game multiple times, knows where all the hidden items are, and you watch them as a way to save you time.
Correct.
Instead of, grunting it out in the game, you're just kind of figuring out, okay, oh, by the way, if I get that item, my life will become faster, better, and I can move on to the next level. So that's what you call it typically a gameplay walkthrough.
Correct.
Then the one I'm talking about is if you're watching somebody like a Mortal or any of these game streamers who are very good with BGMI, excellent snipers, or for example, just understand what it means to own a map really well. So things like those are what you call as pro athletes.
Right.
So Last of Us is inherently a single player game. Somebody like who you may watch will be maybe very good at that game, but is not necessarily playing against other players. Right? And then that's where the multiplayer and that comes in.
So, for example, the Mortal example that you took. So, for example, if Mortal is very, very pro in a certain BGMI map, tell me, when he's playing a game in different scenarios, how much is the dynamism involved in items changing? For example, Last of Us में you know कि यहाँ पर अगर ये, if I see that walkthrough, I know यहाँ पर अगर जाकर मैं ये करता हूँ, then my life will become better. Like when Mortal or anyone else playing
वो
BGMI,
स्किल सेट्स ट्रांसफर होती है. देखो अगर आप BGMI में बहुत अच्छे हो, इट्स लाइक अगर आप Formula 3 में खेलते हो, ऐसा नहीं है कि वो Formula 1 में आपकी गारंटीड विक्ट्री होगी.
correct,
लेकिन ब्रॉडली वो स्किल सेट्स है आपके पास, ड्राइव अ फास्ट कार एंड टू बी ऑफ अ रीजनेबल एथलेटिक लेवल टू परफॉर्म. सो सिमिलरली अगर आप BGMI में वेरी गुड हो, ब्रॉडली अज्यूम के आपको फर्स्ट पर्सन शूटर्स आते हैं और थर्ड पर्सन शूटर एक्चुअली, बिकॉज BGMI इज अ थर्ड पर्सन शूटर, और उसमें आपको बैटल रॉयल का जो जॉनर है वो काफ़ी अलग रहता है इन टर्म्स ऑफ गेम प्ले. तो उसके जो रूल्स और स्ट्रक्चर्स है वो आते हैं. अगर कल उठ के कुछ शायद से आप वैलोरेंट खेलोगे तो मे बी नॉट, यू मे बी वेरी गुड, यू मे नॉट बी द टॉप प्लेयर, बट आपको बेसिक्स आते हैं कि समझना है कि यार अगर ये गेम को क्रैक करना है तो क्या समझना पड़ेगा, कौन से वेपन्स यूज करने पड़ेंगे, कहाँ आइटम्स होंगे, कौन सा वो फॉर्मेट, वो टीम फॉर्मेट होता है, स्क्वाड फॉर्मेट, जिसमें शायद से कभी आप इंडिविजुअल स्क्वाड्स में नहीं खेलते होगे. तो ब्रॉड जो स्किल सेट्स होती है वो तो रहती है, बट इट्स लाइक देयर इज नो गारंटी जस्ट बिकॉज यू आर वेरी गुड विद वन गेम, यू विल बी गुड इन अ सिमिलर जॉनर इन अ डिफरेंट गेम.
हमारे कंट्री में राइट नाउ व्हेन इट कम्स टू करियर, still very nascent stage about making a career in gaming, right? So what would be your maybe a guidance to our young people who can think gaming seriously and just not for fun?
अभी आप देखोगे तो जनरली जो लोग सोचते हैं गेमिंग में करियर क्या है, वो समझते हैं कि गेमिंग में करियर स्ट्रीमिंग में होता है.
करेक्ट.
तो अगर आप एक यूट्यूबर बन गए या ट्विच के स्ट्रीमर बन गए तो आप उधर से बहुत पैसे कमाओगे, और वो होता भी है. लेकिन अभी वो एक तरीके का करियर है गेमिंग के अंदर. लाइक कौन सी भी इंडस्ट्री में, आप फिल्म्स में भी आप प्रोड्यूसर बन सकते हो, डायरेक्टर, एक्टर, जैसे वैसे भी गेमिंग के अंदर एक जो होता है वो जो गेम के बारे में बात करते हैं, जो स्ट्रीमर्स एक्सेट्रा होते हैं, और दूसरा है जो गेम बनाते हैं.
करेक्ट.
तो जो गेम बनाते हैं उसमें जो मैंने आपको बताया वेरियस करियर्स है, वो ऑप्शंस है. मेरे हिसाब से जो गेम स्ट्रीमर्स में तो ऑलरेडी काफ़ी अपॉर्चुनिटी है, और अगर आपके पास अच्छी पर्सनैलिटी है या आपके पास बहुत हुनूर है ये सब गेम्स अच्छे खेलने के लिए, तो आप उसमें अगर आप प्रो प्लेयर बन गए तो आपको लोग देखेंगे अगर आपके पास कुछ अच्छा है दिखाने के लिए. दूसरी ये जो करियर है जो इसमें आप गेम्स बना सकते हो, वो अभी इंडिया के अंदर काफ़ी बढ़ रहा है, क्योंकि ये जैसे मैंने बताया 500-600 स्टूडियोज़ हो गए, काफ़ी ये स्टूडियोज़ को फंडिंग भी मिल रही है. तो अगर आपको गेम्स बनाना सीखना है, सिर्फ खेलना नहीं है और बात करना नहीं है, तो उसमें बहुत करियर ऑप्शंस है और वो उसके अंदर ग्रो ही हो रहा है.
And also there are these boutique agencies that are coming up who are representing players.
Player
today's, yeah.
दो चीज़ अगेन उसके अंदर दो अलग तरीके के एजेंसीज होते हैं. एक जो होते हैं जो ई स्पोर्ट्स एथलीट्स को रिप्रेजेंट करते हैं, टीम्स बनाते हैं, टीम्स को मैनेज करते हैं, प्लेयर्स को मेंटोर करते हैं, कोचेस लेके आते हैं, फिर उसके बाद ये टीम्स को ट्रेन करके स्ट्रैटेजी टैक्टिक्स बनाते हैं वो टीम्स के साथ, So just like a teams, अगर आप मुंबई इंडियंस होते हैं या KKR होते हैं, जैसे वो टीम्स को मैनेज करते हैं, वैसे ही ये एक तरीके के एजेंसीज, शायद से एजेंसीज ना कह सकते हैं लेकिन टीम्स कह सकते हैं. दूसरा जो होता है वो होता है जहाँ ये इन्फ्लुएंसर एजेंसीज होते हैं गेमिंग के लिए, राइट. को काफ़ी इन्फ्लुएंसर एजेंसीज है जिसके पास 300-400 गेम स्ट्रीमर्स रहते हैं, और ये जो एजेंसीज रहते हैं वो ये गेम स्ट्रीमर्स को रिप्रेजेंट करते हैं, उनके लिए ब्रांड एंडोर्समेंट्स लेके आते हैं, उनके रिलेशनशिप्स मैनेज करते हैं यूट्यूब, फेसबुक और सबके साथ. और बेसिकली जस्ट लाइक अ रेगुलर टैलेंट इन्फ्लुएंसर टैलेंट एजेंसी बट स्पेशलाइज इन गेमिंग.
एक recently passed out college student, he is good in gaming, so he has clearly what you said. He has three options. Either if his gameplay is excellent, he can go immediately start his own streaming, create content just by playing game and showcasing and training people through his showcases of how he plays, right? Number one. Number two is if he has the gift of gab, then he can talk through. He may not be a best player, but he can talk, do a commentary session on maybe him playing or someone else playing as well. And the third is developing games. So if I can request you, if you can, after the podcast, on the comments, if you can help us identify some of the studios for our people to kind of, look at the kind of work that they're doing for our audience, it will just helpful.
Absolutely happy.
This is called the Eureka Shot, our age-old tapri ki chai. Please take it. We do cheers, and I want to ask you, have you ever stumbled upon an idea which just came to you like an Eureka moment? What is it all about? Just take us through it.
I mean, I think really there have been a few of these, I mean, in terms of, but none of them has been so revelatory that other people haven't had it at the same point of time, although one may think that it was unique to me. But yeah, I think for me broadly, the idea that generally I think what happened with UGC, where user-generated content came and changed sort of everything we know. I mean, video changed dramatically.
Correct.
I think I had that. I knew that this was going to be something very important. I didn't realize it's going to be that big. And it defined a large part of my career, especially with video. And now maybe just with games. So I think that's kind of, if I look at the last 2 decades of my life, it's probably had the biggest impact. One moment I think I knew it was happening was when I could see all these YouTube creators all gather in 2011 in the US, when I'd gone and I saw that, wow, this was a real business. People were making money of this. People had careers, that, companies being built. And I was like, okay, this is a real thing, you can actually build a business outside of the confines of a large traditional media corporation.
Thank you, Samir. This has been a very, very fruitful discussion. I think I have learned a lot across just segregating different ways of opportunities that gaming holds for all of us. I think that's been a really learning opportunity. Thanks for coming, and thanks for spending time with us.
Thank you for the great questions and having me here.
Yeah, thank you.